everybody. I'm Tom Schweitz, State Auditor. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And thank you all for coming. It's great to see a good turnout. You know, when we do these public releases of the audits, sometimes you get 100 people and sometimes you get 3 people. And it's always nice to see citizens who are concerned about their area. I wanted to go over how I'm going to approach the delivery of the audit today, introduce you to a few people, and then we'll talk about what the findings of the audit were. First of all, I'm Tom Schweitz, Missouri State Auditor. Also with me is our Director of Communications, Vanessa Chandler, who helped set up the event tonight. And then our Audit Manager, Deborah Lewis, who's been with the Missouri Auditor's Office longer than any auditor in our entire staff of over 100 people. You had a very seasoned and experienced auditor doing this audit, and we're very proud to have her here tonight. And then our Auditor in Charge, Carl Zilt. I worked with Carl on a number of audits, and I can assure you we had our most competent staff working on your audit. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the audit. I'll go through our findings and our recommendations, and there will be some time for questions as well. I would ask the questions to be of broad interest, something that would be of interest to the whole group. I've implemented a new process of having a Facebook page open at www.auditor.mo.gov on each audit, so we can continue to have questions and discussions after I leave through the Facebook social media. And feel free to log on there and register any additional comments as long as they're appropriate on the Facebook page as well. This is a petition audit. The reason I came here tonight, I don't usually go in person for audit deliveries, but I consider petition audits to be the most important audits that the Missouri State Auditor does because it's direct democracy. There's very few places in the world where people can sign something and then they get their government to act. Usually you act through representatives, your state representatives, your state senator, your congressman or congresswoman, and other legislators. But here you took the time to get, based on the Missouri state law, you needed 15% of the people who voted the most recent governor's election. There's 2,765 citizens who voted, which meant you needed 416 signatures to get us to do a petition audit. And you did find 434 people, I think, to sign the petition, and that automatically triggers an audit by the state auditor. And what we do with petition audits, because we feel they are a special kind of audit, the highest level audit, we put them at the front of the line. We release over 100 audits a year, and there's a lot of people that want audits done, but I feel that when the citizens of an area, a city, a county, a school district sign the petition, that they should be at the front of the line. So that's what we do. Do the petition audits. I wanted also to mention, since we were here doing the petition audit of the city, we also did the City of Pacific Municipal Division of Court. We tend to try to be efficient, so if we're coming in to do a city, we'll also do the court. We rated that division fair. We have a 4-part system. You can get excellent, a good, a fair, or a poor. And it's kind of like school. It's an A, B, a C, or a D, basically. An excellent means we found basically nothing wrong. A good means there are some problems, but either they're not major problems, or if they're major problems, there's a real commitment by the city to fix them. A fair means we found a significant number of problems and/or not a very cooperative audit subject. And a poor means the place is a mess. And it's good news that nothing we found was a mess. I'm going to deliver a petition audit next week, which was very, very problematic. This one was not as problematic. With respect to the court, we gave it a fair. We found some problems with the accounting controls and procedures, depositing, a failure to segregate duties. It's very important to prevent embezzlement or misuse of funds that different people, you don't have the same person bringing in the money as depositing the money, as reconciling the money. You try to have different people, or at least a supervisory review. We did find some problems with the accounting controls in the court, and we also found some problems with the liability, the bond liabilities, the way bond was handled by the court. Some defendants were reimbursed too much money. Some monies have been held for over a year and should have been refunded. And there were a few other minor problems. And there were also some issues with the traffic tickets. They were not accounting for the numerical sequence of the traffic tickets. And that also presents a potential problem where people can take money. Now, the good news is we didn't find anybody taking any money. We just found that with respect to the court, there were insufficient controls to prevent it from happening. And we feel the court is going to correct those problems, and we're comfortable with that. But the main purpose of being here tonight is to talk about the actual audit of the city. I wanted to say that we considered all of the concerns that were raised by the petitioners. The way an audit works, the way the state auditor works, is we only discuss what's called a finding, where we found something wrong. If we look into something and we don't find anything wrong, or it does not rise to the level of finding, it's usually not included in the report. I also wanted to clarify the scope of the state auditor's authority. We have limited authority, just like every government official. What we are allowed to look into in the state auditor's office are two basic things. Are officials, public officials, who are expending public resources, operating, one, within the law and the scope of their authority? So are they following all laws, rules, and regulations of the city, county, state, federal government, whatever funds they're using? Are they following the law? Are they acting within the scope of their authority? Are they doing things they're legally allowed to do? And then the second thing we look at is, are they operating according to sound financial and accounting principles? That's what we're limited to. Sometimes when we do audits, people think, well, we don't like the way the city is being managed. I mean, one example here in this city is the museum. There were a lot of concerns raised about the museum, but they were really more about whether you should have a museum or shouldn't have a museum, whether it's being properly managed. I'm not an expert in museums. We're experts in auditing and accounting, and we are not even legally allowed to second guess the political judgment of leaders. What we look at is, were they operating legally, within their authority, and in accordance with sound accounting principles, and that's what we looked at in the city of Pacific. We reviewed, for example, the City Hall expansion and renovation. We reviewed all the documentation relative to the renovations, the bids, the solicitation of bids, and other things like that. We didn't look into whether you really needed to do it or whether it was a good idea. Our work papers and all those other documents are by law confidential and secret, so I can't go into a lot of detail about some of the things we didn't put in the report. But suffice it to say that this is a very competent audit staff. You were really lucky to get such a really good group of people to do the audit, and everything that was raised in the petition was addressed and looked at by our audit staff. What I'll talk about are the problems that we found. If I don't talk about it, it means that we didn't find anything, or things we found didn't rise to the level of being reportable. We spent about 800 hours on this audit. It was a pretty thorough audit, 800 audit hours. We estimated the cost could be as high as $50,000 for the audit. The actual cost will be right around $40,000. We did discover several issues that need correcting, which I'll go into in a minute. We did not find any fraud. Now, we have already in my office uncovered 5 instances of fraud, people literally stealing money around the state. We do find that. We did not find that here. That's good news for the city. So what we're talking about are problems with accounting and legal authority. We're not talking about criminal activity here. Now, we can never be sure, 100% sure, but the good news is we didn't find any overt evidence of direct and intentional misuse of funds in the city of Pacific. I come from not too far from here. I come from St. Louis County. I used to go to Six Flags a lot. I've been around this area a lot, and you have a lot to offer. And I think when I deliver an audit, my purpose is not to sell the scores. It's not to give ammunition to one faction over another in a political battle. My purpose in delivering audit is to make sure that the city corrects problems with their accounting, their financial controls, and their legal actions. That's what my purpose is here today. And I hope you'll all take what I say in that spirit, that we're offering suggestions for improvement. It might not be everything you wanted. It might be more than you wanted. Sometimes people think we found too much. Sometimes people think we didn't find enough. But what we do is we go right into looking at the accounting issues and we report on what's wrong. And there may be some people thought, well, you should have found something here. I can tell you, I trust these people. And if they didn't find anything wrong, I don't think anything's wrong. But let me go through with some of the things. I want to tell you, our rating for this audit is good. I said it's excellent, good, fair report. That would be like a B. It's not the best. We've seen better, but it's not the worst. As I said, next week I'm going to deliver an audit of a city that's a debacle. Terrible situation. I can't say in advance what it is, but there were major problems with the city, including theft and misuse of funds and very bad things. People get very emotional about audits. I can tell you, I go all around the state to deliver audits. Your city is better run than a lot of cities around the state. That may be something you don't want to hear, but there is a whole lot worse out there. We rated the city good, and that's actually the first good I've given of a petition audit since I've been auditor. Everything else has been fair or poor of petition audits. So the basic rating is good, and that means that despite some of the concerns, and I know about politics, I've read about it, I know there's a lot of unhappy people, take a step back and take a deep breath. It isn't as bad as you think for those of you who are really upset about it. There are problems, but they are not insurmountable problems, and the city is run better than many cities that I've seen around the state. The first problem we had was a major concern of the petitioners, and it was a legitimate one, which is legal services. We did find that the city had not obtained proper proposals for legal services, used the same individual contractors and hourly rates in 2002. paid $171,000 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011. The answer we got from the city was not satisfactory. Hey, it's important to have good relationships and we like this person and we're just going to use them. I'm a lawyer. I practiced law for over 20 years before I became state auditor. When I started practicing law, people did just sort of use the same lawyer over and over again, regardless of the cost, didn't look around, said, I have a relationship with this person working here. The last 10 years of my practice, I competed for every case I got against other law firms. It's not legally required to compete law firms, legal services, but it is a very good financial practice to do so, and we recommend that the city do that in the future. You may end up deciding to keep the same lawyer you have. You may be doing a great job, but we think it's very important in this day and age, and it happened in every case I worked on for the last 10 years of my legal practice. If you go out and look at what else is available, what their skills are, what their prices are, and whether they can save you money. And that has not occurred in the city. There's been no cost analysis to determine if it would be more profitable to do legal services totally in-house, or whether it would be better to use a different law firm. And our recommendation, and it's a strong one, and we do this frequently, is to periodically solicit proposals for legal services and document the reasons for why you think the lawyer you did, make sure they're the best person. Now, I have nothing negative to say about the lawyer that you've used. You may have done a fine job, but in this day and age, you don't sole source legal services. You compete them out to make sure you're getting the highest quality legal services. I know that was a principal concern of the petitioners, and it was a valid concern. The city was a little resistant to this finding. I think you really need to take a look at the way other cities do business these days, and law firms are almost always competed out. And we think the soliciting proposals would help ensure that you have a contract for legal services that's best suited to provide the services that you need. Another problem we found, finding number 2, was property records. We don't think that the city used proper procedures in disposing of particular police vehicles. There was a trade made in one case for the installation of lights and sirens in exchange for an old vehicle. That was invoiced at $9,700. There was no documentation of the vehicle's worth at the time of disposal, so it's not clear if there was really an equitable trade there. Not just a few $1,000s, but it's important that the city gets especially in this economy, every dollar of value for its disposal of property. And that was true for 2 vehicles. We also found the city did not keep good property records. They don't include all the necessary information, such as the date and method of disposal, and the city does not tag and properly identify property. This is one of our most common findings. People steal property. Stuff gets stolen all the time. We went to the Kansas City School District a few weeks ago. We found $2.6 million worth of iPads and other property that was absolutely missing. And the reason it was missing was there was no tags. There was no way to track it. And in fact, for computer equipment, there's even a way to put software in the actual equipment that tracks it. So the city does not have an adequate property tag system. We think that's essential to making sure that things aren't stolen or lost or misplaced. And we request that that be ensured. That the city ensure that property is properly tagged, properly disposed of, that appraisals are obtained before property is disposed of, and that the city gets the best value for its property. The third finding we had was relative to sewer services. We did not, there was a $7,300 deficit on sewer services, and the intent is to cover that by the water fund. One of the most common problems we have is when one fund is used to make up for a shortfall in another fund. In some cases, it's actually illegal. It's always a bad accounting practice. Every fund should operate on its own. You shouldn't be robbing Peter to pay Paul on the funds, and it appears that that's what the intent is here. There is a statute in Missouri that says sewage funds can't be used for anything but sewage. It's not clear whether water can be used to address a shortfall in sewage funds, but it's never a good accounting practice. The reason those funds are set up separately is because they're supposed to be independent, they're supposed to be funded independently, they're supposed to operate independently. We think that there ought to be changes made. I understand there has been a study of the water and sewer rates that was done last August, and that should hopefully result in some changes in that area. We think sewer rates ought to be reviewed from time to time to make sure there's sufficient revenue coming in to cover the costs so that you don't have to rob from other funds that may need that money. We understand the city is reviewing that and is taking this recommendation seriously, and hopefully it will be implemented. And then I guess this is the senior center. Is that right? Is that where we are right now? The fourth finding we have is relative to the senior center. We found that the city has not received or reviewed invoices and supporting documentation for the senior center, particularly relative to the recycling rebate contract. You all have an opportunity to give a little money to the senior center every time you pay your water bills. We found that the accounting for that was not sufficient, and that needs to be improved to make sure that the money's going where it's supposed to go. My understanding is that in April of 2011, the city entered into a formal written contract with the senior center, whereby the city would include as an option on the water bills that residents could donate $1 from their bill to the senior center. Also, as part of this contract, in addition to remitting donations to the senior center, the city also paid a small portion of recycling rebate into the senior center. The contract requires the senior center submit the supporting documentation for expenditures, keep accurate and complete records available for inspection by the city to make sure that monies are properly accounted for. This is your money. You agree to voluntarily remit it. You have the right to accountability in that area. We understand that it was about $5,000 that was paid for the contract for the last fiscal year, and we did not find adequate documentation for how the money was spent, and we did not find that the contract terms were being complied with, and we hope that that will be changed. The city's response was that accountability for the city expenditures is essential, and we understand that there are going to be better documentation going forward. So that's very, very important. Those were our findings. Now that's not a lot. I have to tell you that's the least number of findings I've ever had in a petition audit. I know there were more concerns raised, but we did look into the other issues, and we did not find there had been any misappropriation of funds or inappropriate activity. We did also find possible violations of the sunshine law, meaning that meetings do need to be kept open, and we hope that will occur as well, but these did not appear to be serious relative to some other entities that we've seen. So that's basically the findings of the audit. You can read in much more detail. That's my summary of what we found, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have now, and if I don't know the answer, we've got the auditors here who can help me out. Any questions? Questions or thoughts? Yes?
You mentioned a big deal, but you didn't follow up.
Right. Well, we understand there were some issues with the cost of the building and whether it was appropriately handled. We are under restrictions when we don't have findings and giving you detailed data. But what I can tell you is they looked into all the concerns that were raised, and there may have been some issues about whether the city should or shouldn't have done all this. But as far as the accounting practices that were used in the museum, we did not find anything wrong. Yes. I'll tell you, normally we do. We haven't. When I became state auditor, I started something that had not been done before, which is a 90-day follow-up routine. In the past, we have only done follow-ups for audits that were fair or poor, not ones that were good. We'll call up. We'll make sure that things are on track. We probably won't do a follow-up report because, like every other state agency, we're short on money and short on people. And this audit was relatively good. I have to tell you something. I know some people here probably aren't happy, but I've seen a lot of problems across the state in cities this size. I've been all around the state. I've traveled all around. And the fact of the matter is, this city is relatively well run, and you should be happy about it. Other questions? Well, this is the quickest public delivery I've ever given, so I didn't have a lot to say. There weren't a lot of questions. But it's always a pleasure to meet with the voters and the people who put me in office and people who asked for this petition to occur. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes. If you have anything you want to just address with me individually afterwards, I'll stick around for 5 or 10 minutes. Why don't we just talk afterward? Yeah, questions? Yeah.
Can you repeat the website for the RV?
Yeah, www.auditor.mo.gov. Auditor, Missouri, and Gov. Yes, question.
Yeah, we want to thank you for accepting my invitation, coming to the city, visiting Pacific, and giving this presentation. It's much appreciated. And we know that your job is a difficult one. All the other positions are difficult.
Well, thank you.
And we take what you do and your staff, we take it serious. We know that you're short-handed. And if you're not able to come back in 90 days, we're going to make a commitment to you this evening that we will send you
I would like that. That would be great. It's just a matter of resources. We decided let's do the cutoff at fair and poor. You know what I mean? Because I just don't have enough people. But it would be great to get a letter from you all telling us what you've done, and we'll put that in the file for the next audit. I really appreciate that. Thank you all. You got a great city, and you should be proud of it. Yeah, thanks.
One more thing, the Facebook page.
Yeah, that's you can put that through the auditor.mo.gov. Thank you all. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks, sir.
Is there anybody from media here?
Congratulations.